Hello and welcome to Business Arena on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Cato. Join me for the latest business headlines of the day. US President Donald Trump announced plans to impose 25% tariffs on European Union exports, including the automotive sector, causing shares of major automotive companies to slump. In response, the EU warned that if dialogue fails, it will retaliate.
First Canada and Mexico, now the European Union. Donald Trump's tariff blitz intensifies.
We have made a decision. We'll be announcing it very soon, and it'll be 25%, generally speaking, and that'll be on cars and all other things. And European Union is a different case than Canada, different kind of case. They've really taken advantage of us in a different way.
A spokesperson for the European Commission told Reuters that the 27-nation bloc would, quote,
react firmly and immediately against unjustified barriers to free and fair trade.
If the proposed sanctions are implemented, adding that
the EU has facilitated trade, reduced costs for U.S. exporters, and harmonized standards and regulations across 27 countries. As a result, U.S. investments in Europe are highly profitable.
EU automotive shares plummeted following Trump's comments. At 4:30, Volkswagen's shares were 2.31% down, Stellantis fell nearly 5.5%, and the EU car part manufacturing index slumped nearly 4%. The US is a key export market for European-made goods, especially automotive products, which account for a fifth of the total EU exports. In 2023, these exports were valued at €56 billion.
Populations around the globe, and particularly in developed nations, are aging rapidly. The share of people aged over 65 has doubled from 9% in 1960 to 18% in 2021. And by 2050, the OECD average is projected to reach 27%. And most of us are unprepared. Our reporter, Konrad Gorlinski, has more.
Well, OECD health policy experts, academics, and policymakers gathered today at the Warsaw School of Economics to discuss the other imminent crisis facing our societies today, particularly in developed countries, and that is the demographic crisis. Now, climate change often overshadows the crisis of aging populations and the many problems that arise as a result. Many of us don't want to think about it, but we will need help near the end of our lives.
Europe is aging, and OECD countries, which are developed countries, are also aging. That means that we will have more and more people living up to the very old age. And right now, the issue becomes more and more acute as we have more people living up to their age of 80, 90, 100, and we need solutions basically now. So we should worry or take care about not only their pensions and incomes, but also need for care services, including the long-term care. And this is a subject that gets more and more of attention of the policymakers, but also researchers and international institutions like the OECD.
What we find is that costs of the long-term care are very high in all OECD countries, including Poland. For example, Poland would need to increase the spending on long-term care by 3.6% each year, up to 2050, which is quite a lot. So there are several options, and the strategies really vary across countries. For example, if we take Germany or Japan, so the countries with relatively generous systems, they are using long-term care insurance. Another way that it's more common in the Scandinavian countries is just to use the common taxation. The third option, and I think this is the very interesting one, for example, France introduced the case in which one day people in the whole country work for free and their wages are going to the long-term care fund.
So, what are we going to need? Well, we'll need organization, coordination, and of course, money, and a lot of it. I'm Konrad Gorlinski, reporting for TVP World.
Looking after the members of our aging population is becoming increasingly difficult. By no means is it their fault, but there are some pressing problems that must be addressed. Later on The Bottom Line, we'll take a look at the OECD's recent report that paints a rather dire picture of recent findings. So stay with us after the news. €2 billion in profit on more than €70 billion in revenue. These are the financial results of the biggest company in Poland, an oil and gas giant, Orlen. Even though the profits are down 2/3 from 2023, the company's share price has been surging. The decline in profit can be attributed to a slight drop in sales and to big write-offs throughout the year relating, for example, to Orlen's Lithuanian operations. However, the overall tone of the company's announcement was positive, with profit in the fourth quarter of the year surging substantially compared to previous quarters. Orlen has recently published a new strategy which prioritizes core business segments and streamlines some of the investments. As a result, the company's share price has gone up by 1/3 this year. It's Fat Thursday in Poland, and as every year, Poles are lining up outside bakeries to get their hands on the beloved Polish doughnuts called pączki. But while the tradition remains unchanged, the price hasn't. So are people still indulging despite the rising prices? Our reporter Aleksandra Marchewicz was at one of Warsaw's busiest bakeries with the latest.
Sweet, fluffy and deep-fried, and nothing says more Fat Thursday in Poland like a warm, fresh pączek. Now, as you can see right behind me, this tradition is very much alive here in Poland, as people have been queuing up since early in the morning to get their hands on this warm treat. But now, just how many pączki they have already eaten, and do they think that the prices are noticeably higher this year?
Pączki are a bit more expensive, but it's manageable.
17.
I'll buy 17. I think they might be more expensive due to inflation.
Droższe ze względu na inflację.
We'll see how many I can manage to eat. They'll be more expensive due to inflation and rising energy costs.
So while the lines outside bakeries haven't changed, one thing has: the price. This year, the average cost of this favorite Polish pastry has jumped by a staggering 30%.
Indeed, the prices of pączki have gone up in various pastry shops. We have kept the same price throughout the year. That is rare. For now, we don't plan to raise it unless economic factors force us to do so.
The increase is driven by several factors. Inflation has raised the cost of ingredients like flour, butter, sugar and eggs, while rising energy prices and wages have made running a bakery more expensive. Another trend is also pushing prices higher. Bakeries are introducing premium pączki inspired by luxury Dubai-style recipes, which sell at a much higher price than traditional varieties. So the big question is, why are Poles still buying this treat?
Residents of Warsaw who still remember the pastry shop from before and after the war used to bring their children, and now those children are bringing their own children. I think it has become a tradition.
Despite the rising prices, it is clear that Poles aren't giving up on their favorite tradition. Last year, around 100 million pączki were eaten on Fat Thursday, and this year will likely be no different. So whether you like yours with rose, jam, custard or chocolate, one thing is clear, that love for pączki in Poland isn't going anywhere. From Warsaw for TVP World, Aleksandra Marchewicz.
And that's all for our business news updates today. For more business stories, check out tvpworld.com.